Hi, this is Tina Barrus. I'm here with my daughter, Tabitha Ibarra.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking today about directing NEWSIES, a Plaza Theater Company, one of our absolute favorite musicals. It was a real joy to get to be able to do that show. I personally love that show from the time it was a movie in the 90s. Before Tabitha was even born, I thought, what a great stage production that would make. And of course, I introduced that show, the movie, to her.
Yeah, and I have really fond memories of growing up watching the movie with my siblings and reenacting the dances and knowing all the lines that we would say with the movie. As siblings, we really have good memories of growing up watching NEWSIES and wanting to be NEWSIES.
So when we started the theater, NEWSIES wasn't even a musical yet. And every time we talk about a new season of shows, I would say, let's just write the writers and tell them to make NEWSIES a musical. So I was very excited when it finally went to Broadway, because I knew eventually we would get the opportunity to do the show. So when Aaron found out that the rights were going to be released, we knew we wanted to jump right on that. So he actually stayed up late one night when the rights were going to be released on a certain day. I can't remember the exact date, but he stayed up and submitted our request at 12:01 so that we could be sure and get this title that he knew and Jason knew we were just dying to do. And we were so excited to be able to be the ones to direct this show. We did see the touring company production, of course, when it came on Netflix. We watched it a million times. Not quite the 2 million times that Eden watched it, but pretty close. We also got the unique opportunity to see the Netflix movie, be the very first audience members to see the next Netflix movie or live recording of it at JTF one year, and we got to hear the director Jeff Calhoun talk about it. So that was pretty cool. That was an awesome experience. So we got to direct the show. We knew we were directing it. The next step was to make sure we could get that cast, because wow, you have to have some pretty amazing triple threat guys to do that show.
We were so excited that we had over 100 people audition for the show. Auditions and callbacks were really scary, but really exciting. And we were thrilled with the people that we had come, not just the amount of people, but the talent of the people that auditioned. We knew we were going to be able to put together a really great show with the people that were there.
Well, and casting was really hard too, trying to narrow it down to who we wanted and who we thought would best represent the NEWSIES and help us tell the story in the best way possible, which was always a goal from the beginning, was to make sure that we were telling the story that we loved so much. In the end, we were absolutely thrilled with the cast that we ended up with. Just an amazing group of people, solid performers and hard workers. I don't know if we could have done better if we could have handpicked them.
Right.
We were so thrilled with the turnout.
It was really exciting. One thing we were worried about when we did audition and before auditions was making sure that we had the dancers to pull off the caliber of dancing that's really needed to make the show work. So, and we did.
Well, because they have to be not just great dancers, but they have to be strong. They have to be not just strong dancers, but strong individuals. The dancing that the Newsboys do is athletic.
Right. And we needed tumblers, and we needed really technical dancers. We needed tap. There was just a wide variety of things we were looking for. So we were so blessed, really, to be able to find dancers that suited all of the needs of the show. And not only suited the needs of the show, but just really made all of the different styles of dance and all of the different dance numbers really excellent. So going into choreography for NEWSIES, It's definitely the most nervous I've ever been to choreograph a show. Leading up, the whole year leading up to the show, anytime I would think about the choreography, I would just feel a pit in my stomach. I was so nervous about doing it justice. I loved watching the choreography as a kid, the choreography in the original Disney movie by Kenny Ortega that's so fantastic. It's so stylized and was so original at that time. I loved that choreography, but then when it became a musical, they took it even farther and really made the dancing something spectacular and something unique. So we were nervous but excited about doing justice to all of the history of the Newsies dancing and making it our own in the round. So I knew I needed to put together a really great team to help me out, and I did that with my assistant choreographers, Eden Barrus, my sister, and David Midkiff, both of whom I have taught since they were very young, and so we know each other's styles and we work really well together. I knew those guys were the ones I needed to help me with this show for a couple reasons.
You guys have the funniest, what do I call it, choreography language. They can say words that don't even seem like words. Tabitha will say, David, Eden, what if we, and then she just says these things and they go, oh yeah, we get it, and then they dance it. It's like a different language.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying a couple
I knew I needed these guys for a couple reasons. David had actually just finished doing a version of the show at Lyric Stage, which was fantastic, and he also was a dance captain for that show, which was really exciting. So he had the background. And then Eden, as we kind of alluded to earlier, is a Newsies fanatic, and she will be the first to tell you. So she knows all the pointless Newsies trivia that nobody else knows. But it was very helpful in doing the choreography that both of them had the background along with the talent to really help me put the stuff in that would make it great. I think one of my favorite things about the choreography is how many different styles there are in Newsies, the different kinds of numbers. And we really got to bring that out with the different kinds of dancers that we had. I remember thinking when we put together Seize the Day, which is the big dance number, that we had all these dance breaks, and we would have one group come in and dance, and then the next group would come in and dance, and then the next group would come in and dance. And I tried to imagine it watching from an audience perspective, that the first group comes in and you think, oh, these are the really good dancers. And then the next group comes in and you're like, oh well, these are really good dancers too. Same with our tumbling. It was just really exciting and incredible, the dancers and the dancing we were able to put together on Newsies.
Oh, we had some great tumblers.
Some great tumblers.
We called them the Flippy Boys.
Flippy Boys. They would flip all over the place.
Yes. Could you do a flippy thing here? Okay, Steven? Trey, Landon, those all are Flippy Boys.
And some Flippy girls.
Yeah, we had some Flippy girls too. They were fantastic. Kimberly, who played Meta and was fabulous, she was in another show. We didn't get her until January. But boy, was she ready.
It was worth the wait.
Oh, it was worth the wait. And she was so fantastic. And, people hadn't really seen her. And then she comes in and knocks that song out during rehearsal. And everyone was on their feet, excited about how fantastic she was. But the energy and the excitement about the show started to grow to the point where we were sold out for opening night. Which is always a goal of ours, but rarely accomplished. So to be sold out was exciting. And that energy from the cast that spilled over into the audience on opening night, it was one of the most stunning performances I have ever been a part of. Tabitha was out of town, so she missed opening night. But it was pure magic. The audience was just, I think, a little bit in shock and in awe, and I think they wanted to get up and dance a little bit with the cast. It was just the most energy I've ever felt in that building, just absolute excitement and joy. And it carried its way through the entire run. It ended up being one of our most popular shows. It was crazy because we'd have people come back and see it 5 and 6 times. They loved the Newsboys, wanted to get their Instagram handles, is that what it's called? Get pictures with the Newsboys. And what was fun about Newsies was it appealed to all age groups of our audiences, to the kids, the teens, young adults, and our senior patrons weren't sure if they were going to like it, but came out, saw it, and loved it. It has such a old musical feel to it, like the classic musicals, even though it's new. And so I think that's one of the reasons it appeals to everyone. And it just ended up having a stellar, solid run. One of my favorite elements of the show was the set, and that was designed by my son, Parker. And, he looked at the Broadway set. We also went to Hale in Salt Lake City and saw their show. And in true Parker form, he wanted to make it his own. He wanted to kind of go with the concept, but make it his own. And he ended up building these 2 towers that, like I said, became a character in the show. They started as the rooftop, then they moved to the gate. That was one of my favorite things. During the open, or the, not first song, but carrying the banner, they'd go from the Newsies being on the platforms, or the towers, is what we called them, to moving them in and bringing in these gate pieces and then opening the gate to the news yard or paper yard. It was so cool. Another time we used the rotation is when we had Catherine's desk on the turntable, and as she started her scene into the song, the desk rotated over to her, and then she sat and did her typing. It was a very cool effect, along with Parker's incredible set design. Cameron's lights were just gorgeous. The opening scene where the lights were just focused in on the platforms or the towers was just stunning, and in true Cameron form, just beautiful lights throughout the entire show. Another really important team member was Caitlin LeBeau as music director. The Newsies have to be able to dance, but they have to sound good too. And you have to sound good tapping. I mean, you're doing all these crazy dances and then singing harmonies and not sounding like you're going to pass out. And Caitlin's music direction was just absolutely fantastic in this show, as well as Sunny's props, having to get all those newspapers and a big show like this with all the newsboy bags and just crazy amount of things in this show. So they were great team members, and our incredible stage manager, Madison, who we always love to work with.
Another group of people that we wanted to talk about that made the show really special was actually the adults. So similarly, the adult roles in the show, other than Pulitzer, which is obviously a large part, the rest of them don't really have a lot of stage time.
Like Megan had one line, I think.
Yeah, most of the adults have a very small amount of things that they actually do on stage. Of course, they were fantastic on stage. Any of the adult scenes were just a joy to watch, and they really brought everything to their characters despite the roles being so small. But one thing that really stuck out to me was how committed the adults were to the kids and the teens and their performances. I remember I had to play, I was the understudy for Catherine and had to play a couple times when our Catherine was ill. And I remember being backstage when I was playing for Catherine and looking in the VOM during Once and For All, and seeing all of the adults gathered around the curtain because they wanted to watch the moment. And the moment if you saw the show, when the newspapers go up and they would go back there every performance to watch that happen, and just the amount of love and loyalty they had for the teens and the kids, I think really made the show feel like a family. And made it excellent, because they were really, I hate to say it, but they were all in it together. You could really feel that when you would watch the show. The adults didn't come just to do their little part and then go backstage and chill out. They were committed to the entire show and what the kids were doing out there, and it really showed.
The cast was led by Evan Beggs, and Evan had never worked with us before. He played Jack, and he just has this leader mentality, just this, Nova's joining us, so you're going to hear some little baby squeaks. He just has this energy that's crazy. Even at 9:00 on a Saturday morning, you're like, dude, where does this energy come from? We made an interesting casting decision that we talked about a lot in casting with our Crutchy. Typically, Jack and Crutchy are contemporaries, I'd say, cast that way, but we went with a different approach in casting William Power, who is quite a bit younger than Evan, but we felt like we could play it as the younger brother type character that Jack always looks after, and that with William's crystal clear voice, just his stunning voice, we knew he would be stellar in Letter to the Refuge, which ended up being one of my favorite songs.
Where it's clean and green and pretty with no buildings in your way, and you're riding Palominos every day. Once that train makes... I hate this place. I'll be fine. Good as new. But there's one thing I need you to do. On the rooftop, you said that families are for each other. So you tell all the fellas for me to protect one another.
Another great relationship in the show was with Jillian as Catherine, and Evan just played so beautifully off of each other. Just some really fun, sassy moments that they have, but then also very tender during their duets, really helped to tell the story. They, again, were just an amazing cast. We felt so lucky to get to direct this show and would do it again in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. It was a really special experience. All shows are awesome, but this one really had something special. I remember how sad we all were on closing night. I remember watching fully grown men crying, holding each other and crying, because they wouldn't get to be Newsies together again.
It was one of those, like Tabitha said, all shows, you love all shows, you love each cast, but there are some shows that just really touch your heart, casts that really stick with you, and this was definitely one of those shows. And Newsies of New York, we sure would love to do it again sometime.
Newsies forever.